This is for you who are feeling very anxious and have a lot of tension about what's going on in the world. You're not alone. This happens generations, usually every 60 years or so. And I'm going to talk over the next few minutes about what American history actually looks like and why what you're feeling isn't unique. It's completely normal, and we're going to get through this. So, to start it off, where am I basing this out of? So, there was a gentleman that was a Harvard political scientist, and he named this pattern. He called it the creedal passion periods. And basically, it's moments when America decides that its institutions, they've drifted too far from the founding ideals, and the elites, whether they be in government, whether they be in corporations, have corrupted it. And Americans want to change. So, starting out in the 1770s, this is the first real radical claim that kind of rocked the world, where the whole concept that a man's rights come from being a human being. It's not from the free society, so to speak, was often given by good kings or senates or elites or bloodlines or priesthoods, things like that. America was the first concept that blatantly said the only qualification that you need for freedom is being a human being. So the power, instead of getting flowing up from the governed, the revolution wasn't like the actual war in the sense of like, hey, we want to have our own colony. It was actually this ideology of what a human actually is. Fast forward to 1830s. 50 years in, and the country was directly confronted with its own hypocrisy about all men created equal. So Andrew Jackson, he had the presidency basically as and when he entered it, it was a place where it was Harvard prestigious and it was nepotism essentially. You knew who you knew who you knew, but he really opened up the doors to more of like the common man. On the other hand, though, he also basically committed genocide against indigenous nations, wiping a lot of them off the face of the earth in their ancestral lands. Fredless Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison started asking the questions to the founders, hey, if all men are created equal, why are there still 2 million people in chains right now? In the 1890s, you have a populist uprising where there were industrial monopolies. You had open gap between the rich and the poor, and the founders' promise of the American dream of like, hey, you can come here and have liberty. It started to feel more like a joke because it felt like the elites still managed things. Strikers, when they refused to work, got shot by federal troops. Farmers marched on Washington. William Jennings Bryan talked about you can't crucify mankind upon the cross of gold. In the 1960s, the civil rights in Vietnam. In 1968, your grandparents watched Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy get assassinated just 2 months apart. You had the whole war of Vietnam. You had the civil rights movement. You had cities burning. You had the evening news going on and on and on about how things are going awful. And you had the first time where war atrocities were actually shown nationwide. Both political parties broke all the trust with the American public. Parents had their own children telling them that you're the enemy, mom and dad. People thought America was coming apart at the seams. In the 2000s, we actually had a delay in this cycle. And ironically, it was because of 9/11. The domestic rage that we had from the 90s, it got routed into an external enemy. But it didn't go away. What really happened is America, because it turned to an enemy, had a compounding of pressure that just didn't get addressed or released. After the Iraq war failed and in 2008, the market crash, things started to compound and feeling more and more and more dense. And here we find ourselves today. We had COVID, we have George Floyd, we have January 6th, you have Middle East unrest, we have one of the lowest points in government and corporations, and you have populism rewired not just on the left, but also on the right as well. Both parties have completely reconformed because they feel like their leaders betrayed themselves, betrayed the people, I should say. This was predicted in 1981. It feels like the soul is tired. It feels like you're trying to escape, and every time you turn something new on, there's more rage. It feels like politics is more threatening versus something to debate about. It doesn't feel like there's any trust in society anymore, and you feel like you're going crazy, right? It feels like either you're crazy or everybody else is. Something's off here, and that's exactly what credo passion feels like. It's from the inside. Your grandparents felt it. Their grandparents felt it. Everybody thought at those times that America was ending. It wasn't, though. It's remaking itself and it's rebuilding itself. So the whole point of this is chaos isn't the story. You don't have to react to every single headline. You don't have to have an outrage after everything that happens. Everything is going to feel like it's on fire for a season, but it's important that you're not treating the weather like the climate. You have to know that these things are cycles, and the perspectives are going to change once you realize, like, hey, I'm looking at a hurricane right now, and even though this feels like an extended hurricane, it's not forever. You're going to start to be able to lead just like your parents and your grandparents and their great grandparents had to deal with this exhaustion that you feel. It's not a failure in your part. It's a very normal part of being a human in a society like we're in. So I guess all this to say, I genuinely do feel hope. It's not a popular thing to say right now, but I truly love America. I love living here. I love being here. I am proud of my country. We have a lot of sins that we have to deal with. But I say this because I feel like as Americans, we are going to be in a better place than it feels like at the moment. And just because you look out and you see a hurricane, it doesn't mean that that hurricane's permanent. I do think that we're going to rebuild and we're going to be better and closer as a country than ever.